We're in the 13th chapter of the Gospel according to Mark, Katamarkon. And the 13th chapter is talking about eschatology, isn't it? Eschatology. Eschatology. What does the eschatology mean? It comes right out of Greek, doesn't it? What's eschatology mean? The study of last times or last things, okay? Now, the Gospel of Mark, and when Jesus talked about the end times, the disciples were very confused. Well, I'm going to tell you what, people are very confused today, still, about the end times. Almost every false religion has a tremendous, not almost everyone, every false religion has a real, they major on eschatology. They major on eschatology. The Jehovah's Witnesses, when they got started, how many times did they have the end of the world coming? And I mean, they would build up their ranks tremendously before that time was supposed to happen. And didn't happen. The Seventh-day Adventist, the same thing, all the time, majoring on eschatology. Now, there is a place for eschatology. There is a place for it in the study of God's Word, and it is a very blessed study. A very blessed study. As the Apostle John wrote in the book of Revelation, blessed is he that reads these books and these words in the book. Blessed. Happy. All right? Blessed and happy. Look at the chart up here. This is extremely important. Okay? Do you see? See if I guess it's on the. Trying to see if it's on the camera or not. We are living in the church age, are we not? We're living in the church age. We know when Israel was the administrator of God's kingdom, God called out a man by the name of Abram. And he changed his name to Abraham. He gave to him the administration of his kingdom. He handed it down to Isaac and to Jacob to the 12 tribes of Israel. And we know that the nation of Israel went down into Egypt. It became a great nation of over 1 million people. God called them out of there, put them back in the land of Canaan. And they've been scattered all over the world today. Why were they scattered? Because they were disobedient. God exchanged and took away from them the administration of the kingdom and gave it to his little church that he called out during his ministry. Okay? Now we live in that church age. In the very beginning of the church age, we see verses 9 through 13 in Mark 9 through 13, the very beginning of it. All right? Now, the tribulation period that marks the real beginning of the end, okay? The tribulation period. That's the tribulation period, and it is coming upon whom? According to the book of Daniel, who was it supposed to be upon? Huh, Brother Mike? Upon Israel. The tribulation period is coming upon Israel, upon Daniel and his people. Now the church is going to be raptured out of there. In the 13th chapter of the Gospel according to Mark, we have Jesus just took everything and just threw it like this. And threw all kinds of little clues here and there. And one clue may state one fact, and that may happen 1,000 or 2,000 years after the other fact, just part of the verse before. In the book of Acts, we see Peter quoting different parts of the Old Testament and prophecy, and he'll just cut it right off because it doesn't pertain to that time. Jesus, when he stood up and he quoted in the synagogue there at Nazareth, he quoted only part of a verse because the next verse jumped all the way into this period of time right here. Now, let's go and look at some things. Eschatology and Angel Wars. There's a book. Well, there's a lot of books. Talk about angel wars. Here's the book of Enoch. How many of you read the book of Enoch? If you just go to the website, you can read the book of Enoch. If you go to discovertheword.com or discoverthewordwithdrjim.com or any of the others, they'll have the book of Enoch on them. You don't have to buy it or anything. You can just read it. Okay? It talks about the angel wars and all the things that happen in the book of Enoch. There are many different translations of the book of Enoch. Now, did I do the book of Enoch on Sunday morning here a while back? Or was that on Wednesday night or Sunday night? Sunday night. Sunday night. Okay, Sunday night. I did that. I get mixed up because I'm teaching so many classes. And I'll try to bring things.
Sunday morning too, Jim, because we had to film.
Okay, well, okay. That was not lately.
No.
That was a long time ago. I was going to show you that film again one of these days. Anyway, the book of Enoch. This is a witness to what happened. Okay? Now today, we have a absolutely advancement of culture and technologies. And every time something evil is about to take place, about judgment is going to come, we see a tremendous influence of demonic culture. A tremendous influence of demonic culture. Demons and fallen angels do affect human beings all over the world. And they work through religion. Let me say that again. Demons and fallen angels work through religion. Who do you think inspired Charles Taze Russell to bring forth what he did? Joseph Smith to do what he did. Do you think that was demonic culture? Surely it was. All right? But what did it do? It took away the plan of salvation from people, didn't it? So they could be religious but didn't know the Lord. Catholicism will do the same thing to people. You got religion. You got an abundance of religion, but maybe less than 1% of people understand a personal relationship with Christ. Okay? Here's another ancient book. How many of you ever heard of the book of Jasher? It's quoted of in the Bible 2 or 3 different times. Reference to in Joshua 10:13, 2 Samuel 1 and 18, and 2 Timothy 3 and 8. It's spoken of in the Bible. This is it, okay? It talks about this type of thing. There was a guy that did a tremendous study. His name is Stephen Quayle. Angel Wars, Past, Present, and Future. Look at this one. This is really spooky. All right? Why is our culture so caught up with this type of art and everything today? Look at this. Why is our culture so caught up with all of this type of art today, of the demonic, of the black, of the darkness? Why do you think it's caught up with this today?
It's mysterious.
Huh?
It's mysterious.
It is not mysterious. It's mysterious, all right. It is mysterious, but it has demonic influence. It has real click today to get all kinds of tattoos. But where did the tattoos come from? Demonic religions. It's real click to do these things. This is the fad today. All types of tattoos all over people's body. You look and I mean people are tattooed from the top of their head to the bottom of their feet. And where did it come from in American culture? Where did it come from? Who were the people that did this mostly?
Military?
No, not military.
No. The prison culture.
Oh, yeah.
The drug culture. What is so tremendous? How drugs and demon influence go hand in hand. In the book of Revelation, it talks about the drug abuse in the last days, the pharmakia. Now let's go back in time and let's see how in the past that demons influence people. Let's go back and look at that chart over here. Look at the times of judgment. All the way back to the Garden of Eden now. Go all the way back to the Garden of Eden. Look over there to the chart, okay? In the Garden of Eden, we had, even in eternity past. Let's go back to eternity past now. What happened in eternity past? Brother Randall just got up the book of Revelation. Or the book of Genesis there. We got our interlinear up there just the last couple of days. You added the interlinear, how to pronounce the Genesis. Okay, Genesis 1 and 1 and 1 and 2. Very important, Genesis 1 and 1 and 1 and 2. Barashith bara, Elohim eth hashemayim ve'et ha'aretz. In beginnings completely created God, the heavens and the earth. And the earth, we ha'aretz, hasiatohu wahuhu. All right, and the earth, she became formless and void. How did that happen? God created a perfect world and a perfect universe, but something happened to it. We have a fallen culture from that time. Now, these demons, God reconstructed the earth in Genesis. Well, you talk about the gap theory and stuff like that. When you study in Hebrew, it's no gap theory. It's a gap what? Gap fact. That's what the Bible says. You either believe the Bible or you don't believe it. One or the other. No ands, and buts about it. Then God put man, he created the earth again, reconstructed, and he put man on it to be the master of the earth, didn't he? And what happened in the garden? We have demonic influence. Where did that demonic influence come from? Nahash. Say that together. Nahash. And what does that mean? All right, it means the snake. And the snake became more deceitful, more sulpful, more evil than any beast of the field. And we find out even in the millennial reign that snake is still crawling on his belly. The curse is still there during that period of time. Yes.
Have you read Peretti?
Have I what?
Read Peretti? David Peretti. Have you read any of his books?
I don't know.
He's a Christian writer, and he writes how the devil works in lives today, and I just wonder what you thought.
I don't know about him. Okay. Let's go on a little bit further now. Well, in the garden, we have demonic influence, don't we? What happened? What happened to Eve? Huh? She had demonic influence. Demonic influence. And Satan, through the Nahash, through the snake, something natural that God created, these demons will. And who was the actual fallen angel that spoke through Nahash, or the snake? Who was the person? Brother Mike, who was it? Lucifer himself. Satan. Now, Lucifer was a light carrier, and for I don't know how long that he served God, but there was a period of time that he did, and he was the most perfect of all the angels and everything. Beautiful. He was a leader, the choir leader, the song leader, and all of that. Yeah, the light carrier of the universe. And then it says, and the earth, she became formless and void. And darkness ruled over the faces of the deep. That's Satan. Okay, something happened there. God put it back in order, and then he put man over this new order of things. The Bible says there's three worlds, doesn't it? How many worlds does it say? It's 3 worlds? And what does it talk about the world before Adam? What was it called? The world that was. And then we have the world that is, and then we have the world that shall become. We got 3 worlds in the Bible. There was a guy, Conrad Nathan Glover wrote a book about the 3 worlds. Well, we had demonic influence. By the way, happy birthday, Dr. John. I didn't get to tell you that.
Thank you.
I mean, it's passed out of that month, but we're in it. But I'm taking a chance now to say it to you.
Thank you.
Then we have the age of conscience. There was demonic influence during that period of time. Demonic influence. So much demonic influence. This here is when Genesis, the 6th chapter. It's when the sons of God came to know the daughters of women. And I'm going to tell you something. There was a tremendous explosion of knowledge conferred from fallen angels to mankind at that time. Did you know that? A tremendous amount of knowledge. Where did the knowledge of metallurgy come from? Huh? According to the book of Enoch. From the fallen angels' influence. Where did makeup come from? Where did tattoos come from? Where did the vampire culture come from? This is all during this time. It says that these Nephilim began to do violence to the animal kingdom. They began to eat them. And they were killing so many of them, these fallen ones, these procreation of angels and man, that they began to depopulate the earth of animals. And they were drinking men's blood and animals' blood. And they were cannibals. In almost every false religion service, almost every false religious service, you have them drinking blood and cannibalism. Cannibalism. In almost every demon culture. Now, you come on down, and then we have human governments fighting against God's government. Noah was kind of the administrator of God's kingdom during his time, wasn't he? We have Enoch. How long was Enoch a prophet of God? How long did Enoch preach? Huh? How long did he preach, Brother Mike?
700 years.
No, how long did Enoch preach on the earth before God raptured him? How many years was it that he preached? Before Noah?
I thought it was like 600 years.
No, 300 years. He preached for 300 years. How long did Noah preach to these people? 120 years. Well, he built the ark. Okay? All during this time we have tremendous demonic influence and we have tremendous demonic religion. Okay? And we have a great advancement in cultures. During this time, the Sphinx was built. The giant pyramids of Egypt. We have the Tower of Babel coming up. Yeah, that's the next thing. We have the flood on the earth. God destroyed the earth. The Sphinx and the original pyramid were beyond, on the other side of the flood. They have the marks of the flood on them. Did you know that? The archaeologists say there were the marks of the flood on the Sphinx, on this great pyramid. And then the next time we have the flood, and we have the destruction of all of these Nephilim and everything upon the earth, and all the animals and everything that was destroyed at that time. And then we have demonic influence in government. Boy, that sounds common, doesn't it? We will have a one-world system. Babylon. Of course, every man spoke one language at that time. They all spoke one language. We have slavery, great advancement of slavery at that period of time, a great advancement of slavery. Well, God judged it. There was judgment, wasn't there? And what happened during that judgment? God divided the earth and confused the languages, and the earth was divided. They built great cities back then. And when you have big earthquakes, when God divided the earth, when tectonic plates were shifting, whole continents were moving, you look at your global, take a globe and look at it, and you see where the earth, all the continents fit together. Before that period of time was Pangea or Gondwana, one piece of earth and one water. And God divided that earth. But there was judgment going on. And they built these great stone pillars and monuments. And what happens to what we call masonry structures when earthquakes happen? They fall down. They fall down. All right? So it kept them from building all the time the earth was shaking up a storm. And in the last days, in the book of Revelation, what's going to happen again? The tectonic plates are going to just move around all over, and every island and every mountain in the whole world will be moved again. And whole cultures will be shook down.
So we can be the new Hawaii right here.
Yeah, we may have Hawaii right here, right next door. Matter of fact, we may be on the beach. We may have beachfront property. I don't know. Anyway, all this happens. Now let's go back and look. False creation theories are taking place today. In demonic religion and demonic and angelic beings, we have, I've drawn a deal up here, probably make you sick seeing me draw it so many times. Man is triune, and the angelic creation is triune, and God is triune, isn't he? So everything, when it comes to creation, we have triune. How many heavens and earth are there? How many worlds are there? How many? In the end, 3. Okay? All right, we have man in his body, his mind, and soul here also, and he is spirit. And then we have angels and demons. The angels and demons, we have Gabriel, we have Michael, and we have Lucifer. Lucifer is over the material realm. All right? Lucifer is over the material realm. And all of our, as far as we can understand as theologians, all of the guardian angels come from Lucifer's. All of them didn't fall out of Lucifer's area. Because if you've got a guardian angel, that's in the material realm. And we have Gabriel, and we have Michael. We have spirit, all right, and we have body, and we have just everything's triune, okay? Gabriel is over what information realm, isn't he? Communication, information. All right? The intellectual, thank you, Brother Mike. He influences the intellectual things. We find that in ancient cultures that we have great advances of information. If you read the book of Enoch, you'll find out how that the angels influenced mankind. They are the ones that made hunters. And they're the ones that made knives and swords and fighting machines and shields. They are the ones that developed pharmaceuticals. And they are the ones that developed drugs. Mind-altering drugs. Always in demon influence you will have drug and alcohol abuse. All of it. Why do drugs and alcohol so affect and capture and enslave people? Because of demonic influence. That's how. Okay? All of this happened back in time. Now today, we are greatly influenced by the New Age philosophy. American Indian, even the Buddhist. What's those other things over there in Dakota in India? Hindus. All of this is reincarnation thing. You live so many lives. You live this life. You live that life. Hogwash. If you have any information from any life you thought you lived before, it's from demons. It's not because you were there. The demons were there, and they can influence you. They can read into your minds what you think was a former life. And not only that, the Von Daniken and the flying saucer creation culture. That some alien beings came and founded a colony on the planet Earth. Yeah, we're an experiment.
Right, exactly.
And they're going to come back again and get us straightened back out, and they're going to bring in a golden age. That sound familiar today? How, if you were Satan, how would you confuse people on the earth? You couldn't keep them from being religious. People are religious by nature. Okay? But what would you do to them if you wanted to damn their souls forever?
Free focus on something else.
Try to say that Satan is your God that created you. If these demon cultures, we have Chuck Messler, you know, he did a thing on the Nephilim. Remember that, Brother Bill, that film that I showed? How the flying saucers, there are real aliens out there, people. The aliens are fallen angels and demons. They are what we call extraterrestrial beings. They are. They do exist. They've existed since eternity past. And do they come into space and time every now and then? Do they just break into space and time, zip, and affect people's lives? Sure they do. We know that. We got biblical examples from A to Z. The writer of the book of Hebrews says, be careful. You might be entertaining angels. Good ones. How many of you entertained bad ones? How many of you entertained bad ones? How many times do we have so much bad angelic influence on us? Every war that's fought on the earth, there's an angel war taking place at the same time. You don't believe that? Read the book of Daniel. You read the book of Daniel and you'll hear history foretold as it's going to happen. And it talks about the physical wars on the earth, and then we have the angel wars right above them. That's spooky, isn't it? We got wars going on in the world today, don't we? Sure we do. False creation. Now, if you can convince people that flying saucers and alien beings came to earth and created the human race as an experiment, and they were going to come back and take care of it again, that it really wasn't God, the idea of God is just somebody's imagination of theology. But this is really what happened. You know how many people believe that in the world today? There's a great amount of people, and some of them are pretty good people. They really nice guys, really nice girls and stuff like that. How many very famous people believe this? A lot of Hollywood. That's right. A lot of Hollywood. They believe that. How could you more defame and blaspheme God is to turn him into an alien demon force that's created his world? How much greater could you defame and blaspheme God than to say that he was an alien that created this culture? That would be the real stroke, wouldn't it, of genius? But how many people out there have fallen for that stroke of alien demonic genius? Angel sources. The cultures that you have today are angel sources. They have angelic influence. The technologies that have been introduced to mankind have angel sources. Angel sources. Let's see if I can find this real quick. I think I've got it marked. Talks about angels marrying women here in Genesis, the 6th chapter. And the women conceiving brought forth giants of great giant structure. These turned against men in order to devour them, and they began to injure birds and beasts and reptiles and fishes, to eat their flesh one after another, and to drink their blood. This is where the vampires began. The vampire culture, all right? It's in chapter 8. Or chapter 7 of the book of Enoch, but all of the chapters and books of Enoch, the translations and different parts of it, it might be in chapter 6 or might be in chapter 8 or 9. And then it names all of the angels that taught men this, the very angels that did it. He said, and Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates and the fabrication of mirrors and the workmanship of bracelets and ornaments. There was a period of time in church history when Baptists would not wear, even the women wouldn't even wear a wedding ring. Now they've got rings and body jewelry all over them. Where do you think that influence comes from? to use paint and the beautifying of the eyes and the eyebrows and the use of stones and every valuable kind for jewelry. Okay? All sorts of dyes to dye their hair. Women have always, if they got blonde hair, they want to have black hair. Whatever color hair they got, they want to have a different color. Okay? And the same thing with men. And now they're going to put their hair purple or whatever color. Impiety increased, fornication multiplied, transgression and corrupted all their ways. And Mazarok taught all the sorcerers and dividers of roots. And these are the druggists, the drug abusers. Armaires taught the solution of sorcery, how to tell fortunes. And of course there's demonic influence during all this time. Barakael taught the observers of the stars. These are the ones that tell your fortunes through the stars, okay? Arabiel taught signs, and Timiel taught astronomy, and Azaradel taught the motion of the moon. And men, being destroyed, cried out, and their voice reached to heaven. And they put up their kings and their masters, etc. All throughout the world, and guess what? History repeats itself, doesn't it? So many times. There was one great leader said one time that he said, history is a great teacher, and a man that won't study history is a fool and bound to repeat it. Well, here we are, fools and bound to repeat it. Governments are bound to repeat it. In these cultures, they made women men and men women. Does that sound familiar today? Homosexuality became a very great part of the culture. Homosexuality. We have all kinds of perversion and prostitution and twisted behavior of every sort through these period of times. Verse number 8 in Mark the 13th chapter, we got there. This is the background here. Okay? False creation theories. Eschatology and angel wars. We've got lots of angel wars going on today, people. There's a lot of angels, and they're real. Angels are real. Spirits are real. They do affect people. I want to tell you a little something. The book of Enoch calls some of these Nephilim, these weird old people, these weird old things, they calls them watchers. You know what the American Indian called the Bigfoot? Watchers. 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 That's what they call them, watchers. Because they watch. They watch. They say every time one of these demon fallen angels procreated with a woman, the spirit in that child became a demon spirit in the afterworld. 1/3 of the demons and the angelic forces rebelled against God. That's two against one, isn't it? But if Satan could build his forces, how do you think he would do it? Through this Nephilim culture that creates one more demon spirit, so he could build his forces up. When you go in with a war, it's pretty hard to whip. When you got 2 to 1, it's really hard to overcome that, isn't it? And Satan's not a dummy. I'm going to tell you that right now. If he can figure out how to get an edge, he's going to do it. And I think that's the edge. Verse number 8, for nation will rise against nation and kingdom against nation, and there will be earthquakes in various places. See that earthquake? That's culture. That's what the tectonic plates are moving, okay? Various places. And there will be famines. You know, in the history of mankind, most of the history of mankind, people on the earth had food. But the problem was a few people controlled the use of that food. Well, many were starving. Many people had surplus. people have starved to death not because of lack of food, but because of what? Greed over the few that were controlling all of the resources. Famines. And these things are merely the beginning of the birth pangs. Be on your guard now. These all will happen in the last days, is what it says, this eschatology. And this is only the beginning of the end times. Verse number 9, now different parts of the 13th chapter of the Gospel according to Mark pertain to them there, and some things pertain to us now, and some things pertain to the future. All right? Now, right now, we're going to get from verses 9 through 13, we're going to find out what was going to happen to that little church right during this period of time. All right? And I want to tell you some things that indicate that this pertains to those people right there. Let's look at it. Be on your guard, for they will deliver you up to the courts. What courts he's talking about? The Sanhedrin. And the synagogue courts. Every synagogue had a judge in it. And they took care of all the little common things. The great court, the what we call the Supreme Court of the place, was the Sanhedrin court. But every city had a synagogue in it. And they took court, and they had scribes. And the scribes were what, Brother Bill? What were the scribes? County clerks, recording all this. Court recorders. Be on your guard. They will deliver you up to the courts, to the synagogues. And you will be flogged in the synagogues. It tells us exactly where it is. Okay? Very plain. Who is this speaking to here? The church during the early part of the church age. Okay? And you will stand before governors and kings for my sake as a testimony to them. You will do this, and you will testify to me. Now, this is the church. All right? Jesus hasn't died yet. He tells them that the destruction of the temple is going to come, that Israel is going to be leveled, and Israel is going to be transported, and they are going to be dispersed. See here? At the beginning of the church age, right here in the beginning of the church age, we have Israel being dispersed and scattered. And why were they dispersed and scattered? Because they were disobedient. They should have known their day of their visitation when their king came. Verse number 10. And the gospel must be preached to all the nations. How was the gospel preached to all the nations? What caused the gospel to be preached to all the nations? Somebody go to Matthew, the 28th chapter, and you translate that for me the way it should be translated, not the way the king did. All right? Go there in Matthew 28. Brother Mike, you there?
26.
You know how to... What?
26.
Matthew 28. Katamathion 28. The 28th chapter. All right? You translate that for me the way it should be translated, not the way King James does. Brother Mike, you there? Start with verse number 18. Start reading it out real loud now so they can hear you on the camera.
And Jesus came up and spoke to them, saying,
Who's them? The church. All right?
All authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. After you've been dispersed, go.
Thank you very much. After you've been run off and dispersed. It says, go ye therefore in King James. And they call that the Great Commission, but that's not what happened. After you have been scattered, what's going to cause that? This persecution that we're talking about here. After you've been scattered and dispersed, what?
Make habitual orders of all the nations, dipping them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Boy, you got it down, brother.
Yeah,
You got an A+. All right?
Where you give the-
After you've been scattered off, after you've been run off, and every translation will say, go ye therefore. Go ye therefore, baloney. They're going to be scattered ye therefore. You've been run out of here. You're going to be scattered all over the world. Why? And the gospel must be first preached to all nations. When they arrest you, who's this talking about? These people right here, this period of time in the early church age. In the early church age. When you have been arrested and you are delivered up, do not be worried, do not be anxious beforehand about what you are to say. We're talking about because God, the Spirit, is going to inspire them what to say before the judges and before the synagogues and before the courts. If you want to see an example of this, you go to the 7th chapter of the book of Acts where Stephen was arrested. And Stephen rehearses the whole, this is before the Sanhedrin court now. Stephen rehearses the whole history of the nation of Israel before them and to them by inspiration. God inspired him what to say. Don't worry about it. When Paul stood up, before every time that he was put on trial, the Spirit of God inspired him what to say. When Peter was arrested, God inspired him what to say. Philip, when he talked to the eunuch over there, God inspired him what to say. Don't be anxious beforehand about what you're to say, but say whatever is given to you in that hour. God will give it to you in that hour. It's not talking about today now. It's not talking about today. This isn't for us now. This is for them. This is when they were scattered. For it is not you who speak, but it is the Holy Spirit speaking through you. Okay? And brother will deliver up brother to death. The Apostle Paul had a lot of relatives that were Christian. All of these Jews had relatives that were Christians. Go back to the 3rd chapter of the Gospel according to John. We have Nicodemus in there, don't we? And Nicodemus was what? He was a Pharisee, and what else was he?
Tax collector.
Huh?
Tax collector?
No, we're talking about Nicodemus. Nicodemus in the 3rd chapter of the Gospel of John. He was on the Sanhedrin court.
All that.
All right? He was a representative of the Sanhedrin court. That's what he's doing there. He's a representative of the Pharisees that ruled in every synagogue. Okay? He's a representative of all of these. And he's there. And he said, we know. He's representing the Pharisees, and he's representing the Sanhedrin court. That's how he speaks to Jesus. By the way, we're going to start teaching that on Wednesday night again pretty soon, the Gospel of John. On Wednesday night, the last several weeks, we've been studying about demonic influence in churches through the charismatic movement. How other way would you influence people? Real spiritualism. Okay? Paul was on the way to Damascus to kill more Christians and destroy churches in Damascus. And God struck him down, didn't he? And then he got converted by force. That was one of the only forced conversions that we could find in the New Testament. Did you know that? Where he was forcefully converted by Jesus. Lord, what would you have me to do? Who are you, Lord? I am the one that you persecute. What would you have me do, Lord? You're going to do something different, Saul, and your name will be Paul. And what did Paul's family do to him, according to history? They had a burial for Paul, and they buried him. His family, his wife divorced him, his children said, we have no father, he's dead. They 86'd him out of the family. That was the Apostle Paul. That's what happened to them here. That would happen to these disciples too. Brother will be delivered up, brother to death, and a father his child, and the children will rise up against parents and cause them to be put to death. And this is what happened during that early church age, wasn't it? Matter of fact, it happened all the way through the Dark Ages too, didn't it? In the Dark Ages over there in the Middle East today, in those eastern countries today, in Saudi Arabia, how many Christians are there in that very holy city over there? What's that so holy city? Mecca. How many Christians live in Mecca? How many Christians live in Mecca? How many? Do you know? Huh? How many, Brother Mike? Zero. If you're a Christian, you go into Mecca, you're a dead man. They want to do away with all Christians in Saudi Arabia and all Christian churches. Get them rid of them. Brother Abe talked about China this morning. I can't remember which state it is in America today, but they want to, because of this Islam problem, they want to, in one of the states, and I can't remember which state it is, they want to have one religion in that state, and one religion, one denomination only. Do you know the United States, when the colonies were first established over here, each colony was a state church colony?
Is it Christianity?
We're going to go back to that again, supposedly, to control what?
Christianity is the religion?
Oh no, some denomination.
Oh.
Maryland. What religion do you think was in Maryland? Catholic. Mary's land. All right. It may go back to that again because of all the problems. Brother will be deliver up brother, and parents their children, cause them to be put to death. Verse number 13, and you will be hated by all on account of my name. But it is the one who has endured to the end shall be saved, and they will be. Who was the only one that endured through all of these people to the end? Who was the only one that endured? Who was the only apostle that died of natural causes? John the Apostle. He was probably 100 and something years old, 130 years old or something when he died. You know why I think the Lord used him to take care of him? Because John was also, Jesus made him as the heir of his family, didn't he? Those other brothers he had, they just walked off and left Mama, and they all became missionaries. But the Apostle John was the caretaker of Jesus' mother. Now, the Catholic Church will have her taken up to heaven and all this kind of baloney, but John, the Apostle, took care of her, and he was a pastor at the church of Ephesus for many, many years. Mary died in Ephesus, and John died in Ephesus.
What about Joseph?
Joseph who?
Mary Joseph.
Oh, he died long before that. Joseph died before, he was dead when Jesus started his ministry. Joseph of Arimathea was probably maybe his brother. That's the one that begged Jesus' body. We talked about that last week, remember? That may have been Jesus' uncle, Joseph of Arimathea. Those boys, they used the same name for them. They usually had a different middle name or whatever. Joseph of Arimathea. Maybe the other one was Joseph of Nazareth. Okay? Verse number 14 now. Verse number 14. We jump over and beyond a long, long way. Here we have the church age. We have the tribulation period. We know that in the end time, we're going to have the regathering of Israel. And that has happened, hasn't it not? So we know we're pretty much in the end sometime, because Israel has been regathered. Israel is a nation again. And we have a lot of demonic influence in the world, don't we? This Gothic black culture. All of the things that are influencing people, we have an influence in religion, don't we? This New Age, this demonic creationist, the flying saucer creationist, the demons that came to earth and founded all of this culture that we have on earth is going to come back and rescue it from itself. Again. Are these demon angels going to come back? These demons and fallen angels going to come back? Just read the book of Revelation. Hell is going to be turned loose. Those that were so dangerous, in here we have, in Gabriel, we have spirits and we have angels in the information. Those are the ones that brought all this information to mankind. We have Michael, that's the spirit world. These are very powerful ones. Some of those are in the bottomless pit. And then we have Lucifer, that we have the physical realm, where the angels affect people in the physical realm and the spirit in the physical realm. Verse number 14. But when you see the abomination of desolation standing where it should not be, let the reader understand, and let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. What period of time is this?
150 BC.
Huh?
150 BC. Wow.
Well, that happened already, though.
Yeah.
That happened when the Antiochus Epiphanes stood there. But that was a type of what's going to happen.
In 70 AD.
In 70 A.D., we have Rome destroying, because of the Sicarii, we have Rome destroying Masada and leveling Jerusalem because of the Sicarii.
And then the Antichrist.
And then we have the Antichrist that's going to come. And the Antichrist, during the tribulation period, we're going to have the rapture. 1 Thessalonians 4:16 and 7, we have the rapture of all the saved and the church. And then tribulation period becomes on this earth. And we have a great leader come up, and he's going to answer all the world's problems. He's going to be the answer to them. And it's going to be a man. I don't know whether it's a bomber or not. No, I don't think he's the right one. This is going to be a Jew. This is going to be a Jew, okay? Anyway, at the beginning of the tribulation period, this man is going to say, give me total control, and I will do away with the robbers and all this kind of stuff. I will bring order to the world. And that's where all the people under the Western culture, what happens to them? They have to take the mark of the beast. You cannot get a job unless you have the mark of the beast. You can't buy a bag of potato chips unless you've got the mark of the beast. You cannot get medical treatment unless you have the mark of the beast. Nothing. You can't get anything. I don't have time, brother. No, hold on. Right over here now, the abomination, desolation. The first 3.5 years takes place during this great reign of the Antichrist. And Israel builds their temple back in Jerusalem again. They have their services again. They're sacrificing. They're making sacrifices. All this is taking place in the land of Israel. Okay? And all of a sudden, at the middle of this period of time, the abomination, desolation takes place. That same thing, Antiochus Epiphanes in the Old Testament times. When the Maccabees, when they got after and they cleansed the temple, they finally ran him off and took it back over their temple. Again, they will have their temple, but right here, a false Messiah will stand up, and he will stand in the temple in Jerusalem and say that he is God. That's when this takes place. So we jump over now. We're jumped completely through the church age with this verse. We're over here in the middle of the tribulation period. That happens at 3.5 years into the tribulation period. Okay? And then it says, when you see the abomination, desolation standing where it should not be, let the reader understand. Let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Those in where? Judea. Who are these in Judea? The Jews. The Jews that have not believed in the Messiah. These Jews. Now the whole tribulation period is coming upon the Jews to get them ready for the millennium. Now Jesus, first of all, from 8 through 13, we've got the church involved there. And we got the apostles. Now in verse number 14, he jumps back to the Jews. The Jews that are living during the tribulation period. And all of a sudden, they're right here in the middle of the tribulation period. After their false Messiah has led them for 3.5 years, he's going to stand in the temple in Jerusalem, and he's going to say, I am God. They've already taken the mark of the beast. Many people in the world have. Now, he tells these Jews, when you see this happen, the light's going to come on. Now, we've got 1,000 verses that we could go to right here. Okay? We got a lot of verses we could go. And then when and he says, when you see this, verse number 15, it says, let Those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. What mountains do many theologians believe this is talking about? Petra. Thank you, Brother Mike. Another A+. To Petra. To the mountains of Edom. That red rock city. Flee down there. And the Lord himself will protect them. You can go from the Old Testament to the New Testament, and you can see all this war taking place and everything, and how that the armies of the Antichrist are chasing the Jews down there, and all of a sudden God used the earth to swallow them up, the armies of the Antichrist, and he protects them down there for 3.5 years. And he feeds and takes care of them like he did Elijah. Okay? Flee to the mountains, and let him who is on the housetop not go down and enter in or get anything out of his house. It's not talking about you. I'm not talking about you here. Not talking about us at all. This isn't to us. This is to the Jews that live in this period of time. If you're on top of your house where your patio was, back in those days they had patios on top of the house. That's where they went up there and they slept in the evening, and they had their dinner in the evening and all that kind of stuff. They did it on top of their house where they had the patios. Don't go down into the house. Jump to the next house. And jump to the next house. The houses were really close together. Jump from rooftop to rooftop to rooftop. That's what's called the road of the rooftops. Don't even go down. Don't hit the city streets, because the city streets are going to be full. Because many of the Jews, when they see this abomination, desolation take place, and by the way, it's going to be televised all over the world. When this happens, it's going to be televised all over the world. The capital punishments and the executions will be televised all over the world during all this time. It's going to have complete coverage. If you've ever watched that set of films, Left Behind, you'll see a little bit of what it's talking about here. Let him have the housetop not go down or enter in to get anything out of the house. Don't go grab your gun. Don't go grab your lunch pail. Don't go grab your extra coat. Get out of here right now. Let him who is in the field do not turn back to get his coat. If you're out in the field working, if you're at the job place, don't go home. Hit the street and get out of here. But woe to those who are with child and those who nurse babies in those days. Pray that it may not happen in the winter. For those days will be the time of tribulation, such has not occurred since the beginning of creation, which God created until now, and never shall be. Verse number 20. And unless the Lord had shortened those days, no life would have been saved. For the sake of the elect whom he chose, he shortened the days. Who's the elect here? Not the church. Who's the elect here? Who is the elect here? 2 elections in the Bible. 2 elections. What 2 elections are there? The church and who? Israel. This is Israel. It's talking about Israel. Not talking about the saved people now here. But for the sake of the elect whom he chose, he shortened those days. And if anyone says to you, behold, he is here, the Christ, and behold, he is there, do not believe. For false Christs and false prophets will arise and will show signs and wonders, in order that, if possible, to lead the elect astray. Not talking about the saved, it's talking about the elect Israel. Thank you for your attention today. I hope you enjoyed this class. By the way, last week I have copies of that message that I forgot the other day. I made more copies. If you want copies of the class that I did on Sunday, we do have some. I think I've got them on video and CD both, DVD and CD. Thank you very much for your attention. I didn't have enough time to answer all of your questions, because if I didn't, I wouldn't get there.
I'll ask you right now.
I had a lot of territory to cover.
You got the announcements today. So if everyone takes the mark at the end, so the Muslims will take the mark too here in America?